Hello, I'm Becky Thorpe and I'm the Curriculum Manager at Matrix TSL. I'm going to do a quick introduction to Flowcode for new users. So if you're unfamiliar with Flowcode, perhaps you've got a copy but you're not sure what to do with it, or maybe you've never seen it before, this is the video for you. As well, don't forget you can download a free version of Flowcode so you can have a go and see how you get on with it. Now, opening it up, you see a screen similar to the one I've got here. I want to start a new project, so concentrating over here, I can see nice and clearly, new project, that's where I'm going. It then prompts me to set up my project. Now, this is important if you're downloading your code to your hardware. If you're using the free version, you'll see lots of options available to you here, even with the free version. Now, I'm not actually downloading my code to my hardware today. I'm going to use the simulation mode within Flowcode. So I'm actually going to select no chip. I'm going to OK that, and then my screen will change, ready to start doing my code. Now, if yours does look slightly different at this point, perhaps if this area is missing or something like that, do remember you can go to view and you can select and deselect areas here. So if that was unticked, this area would be missing. You can tick that in, it comes back. Now I'm going to do a very simple little start looking at how to light up some LEDs. So looking at the components across here, LEDs are an output, so I want to look at the outputs. And I can find LED array, right click that, add to 3D panel, and my LED should pop up in my panel. You can click and drag that if you're more familiar with selecting things and dragging them across. That works as well. And at the moment I have got my 8 LEDs showing me as green LEDs, and if I look closely I can see that they're numbered B0, B1, B2, etc. Now that tells me that those LEDs are connected to port B. If I want to see more, if I right click on there and select those LEDs, it gives me information here in the properties panel, and that's something that we'll be looking at later on. But to start we need a program. Now, Flowcode has very kindly started me off with a beginning and an end. If I run that now, it's not going to do an awful lot. So what I need to do is start putting some icons between the beginning and the end. Now, looking at the icons, you might be familiar with some of the shapes of those, but if you're not, if you hover your mouse over, you can see a nice indication of what they are. Now, this is the one that I'm going to start off with, a loop. If I click and drag that in, then that will give me a loop. So basically how that works is any code that is placed within that loop will go on forever. So I'm then going to start putting some more icon in between there, so that will run forever. Now, if you look closely, you might see a little star there. That tells me that that icon has been put in there after I saved my project. So I need to save my project now. Typical way with projects: file, save as if you're saving it for the first time, save if you're saving it when you've already set up your folder. Now, I think it's quite good to have your projects fairly straightforward rather than a folder in a folder in a folder in a folder. So I've got a folder in my documents here. I'm going to call it LED because I'm going to light up some LEDs, LED test, and that will create a Flowcode project file which will be .fcfx. It will create some other files that go alongside with that, so don't worry if you see a handful of different files in that folder afterwards that are all created by Flowcode. So now you can see my little stars gone. I want an output. I can click and drag my output icon onto there. Again, I can now see the little star. If I save that, that star goes. Now, looking at the information next to the output icon, I can see that there is a 0 value going to port A. And if we remember the port of our LEDs, they were on port B. So I need to send a value to port B. Now, if I double click on that, it brings up the properties box of the output icon, and I can change things in there. If I change the value to 1, okay, if I go to a single bit, if I change my port to B, that is in line with the port that my LEDs are on as well. So now if I OK that, the text at the side changes as well, and it's now reminding me that I've got a value of 1 going to be 0, which is this first LED here. Now, I haven't got the hardware here, doesn't matter, I can run it in simulation mode to see what would happen, to check out my program to see if it works. Now, up here, across the toolbar here, there's the run button there. If I click that, you can see that the first LED does light up, and that's tested that that's working fine. Now, if I wanted to change that, I must remember to stop the simulation running first. If you don't, if you try and change something now, it will prompt you to remember to stop the simulation. It doesn't do anything wrong, it just reminds you to stop the simulation. So if ever you're doing anything and it's not doing what you want, remember to stop the simulation first. So now I can double click that. If I change that to, let's see, LED 4, I can then send that value to B4 on here, and that would light up, which is the 5th LED along. Okay, there are other ways to light the LEDs. If you're familiar with binary, you might be interested to send, if you send to the entire port. If I send a value of 1 now to the entire port, it will light up the first LED because I've only got a value of 1. And if you are familiar with binary, we would count 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64 and 128. So if that is 1 and that is 2, then a value of 2 would light up that second LED. A value of 4 would light up that one. A value of 4 add 2 add 1, which is 7, should light the first 3. Let's try that and see if that works. Value of 7 to the entire port, remember, is lighting up the first 3. Okay, so that's quite nice. Now looking at these LEDs here, what I can do is I can change that. If I remember to stop my simulation, if I select those LEDs, a few things here that are quite handy to change if you're getting familiar with it and you want to try changing a few more things. Here, where I just clicked, it says count 8. That is how many LEDs are in my array. I've got 8 LEDs at the moment. If I change that to say 5, then it changes how many LEDs are in my array. Another thing that's quite nice is at the moment I'm on green, I can change the colour. Now that is only changing the colour within my simulation, but that's quite nice to try different things. Okay, so remembering to save that at the end. And now I've got an LED array of 5 LEDs and they're red, and I've got a value of 7 going to port B. Okay, so I think that that's enough for today. Remember that you can download the free version if you want to have a quick go with it. I'm aware of only giving you a very quick start today. You might like to have a go at this and then see if you can take that further by looking at the icons, perhaps seeing if you could make the LEDs flash on and off is a nice extension to working with the LEDs. Have a go at changing the colours, different ones lighting on and off, and have a play and see how you go, because the advantage of working in the simulation mode is you can just keep trying it out on the computer screen, and you don't need all the hardware with you. Okay, so I think that's enough. I hope that's been useful. I hope you will continue to enjoy using Flowcode, and thank you very much for listening. Bye bye.